A former Phoenix Suns player is taking his talents to South Beach. Wing player Nassir Little signing with the Miami Heat. This was to be expected after general manager James Jones released him earlier in the offseason, and now he has to build this roster up in what is a win now season. We're going to take a look at what the Suns' salary cap situation is looking like following the Nassir Little signing right here on Suns Digest. My name is CJ Pierre. Thanks for joining us, you guys. We really appreciate it. Before we get into the news with Nassir Little and how that impacts the Suns, we noticed that about 81% of you guys are watching our videos, and we appreciate that, but you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet. If you want to make sure you're keeping up to date with all the Phoenix Suns latest news and updates, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing that we're going to have cooking up for you guys. Now, earlier in the offseason, we've talked about several times about how Nassir Little and his fit with this Phoenix Suns team and how, based on how the roster was being constructed, we didn't really think that he was going to have a place. Well, the news broke that he was going to be released by the Phoenix Suns, and it looks like he now has found a new home with Nassir Little going to the Miami Heat. The news being broken very recently that Nassir Little is actually going to secure himself a roster spot with the Miami Heat. This report coming from Chris Haynes saying free agent wing Nasir Little has reached an agreement on a 1 year deal with the Miami Heat. Legal sources tell Chris. Now, if we get a bit deeper into the reporting of this move coming from Miami side of things, they're saying this contract will be for the league minimum and almost certainly is not guaranteed, or maybe it's partially guaranteed. That's from reporting from Miami because the Heat are flirting with the dreaded second tax apron, a line they do not wish to cross, something that the Suns are dealing with right now. If this were fully guaranteed, it would take them over, but if the team needs to keep Little for the entire season, there are other moves they can make to get under the tax line. Little is a quality ring defender, something every team could use more of, and his play on that end of the court will give him a chance to earn more minutes. Now, that's the Miami Heat side of things, what they're expecting to get from Nassir Little. He was a good rotational player. He wasn't necessarily a contributing player on a regular basis, but he did have some flashes. If we take a look at his stats last season in particular, averaging 3.4 points per game, 1.7 rebounds per game. Again, this is limited minutes, shooting 46% from the field, 30% from 3 point range, and 32% on corner threes. So it's more of a depth piece, more of another player who can fill in case there's injuries for the Miami Heat. That's kind of what his position was for the Suns. But that's the Miami Heat side of things. If we take a look over and we see what GM's James Jones is going to have to do for this particular time at this particular time with the Phoenix Suns. The initial little move kind of was expected. He was released alongside EJ Liddell a few weeks back, and now he's faced with making sure that this Suns team is built to win a championship. Now we're going to take a look at the Suns' current salary cap situation to see what basically what they're sitting in. What is the state of the Suns' financial affairs right now? Because that's really going to be important as not only they move forward into this season, but moving forward into next season. And the Nassir Little situation kind of plays into that. When Nassir Little was released, there was an agreement made with him and the Suns about his contract. The Athletics, Sham Sharina, reporting that the Suns stretched Little's 3 years on his contract and $22 million left. That means the contract will be paid over twice the number of years left on the deal, plus one, thinning the amount owed. And then reporting from John Hollinger, while it moves millions to the salary cap table through the 2030-2031 season, taking those small amounts off the books will save around $40 million in tax penalties over the 2024, 2025, and 2025-2026 seasons as the Suns navigate the second apron. Now, this is another one of those rules in terms of with the second apron that teams who are continually in the second apron year after year, more and more penalties come, more taxes, draft picks get affected. The longer you stay, you remain in the second apron. So at some point in time, the Suns are going to need to make moves to find a way to lift themselves under it, maybe at least for a bit. And we're going to take a look at that in a little bit here. But if we take a look at the Suns roster right now, there are 14 players signed to the active roster. Take a look on the right hand side, the 14 top 14 players in terms of their cap hit to the team this season. That's 14 now. There's 15 open spots on an NBA roster. That means the Suns do have an open spot. We've talked about that in the past, that leaving that spot open as they head into training camp and into the season garners them some flexibility in terms of what they're able to do, whether or not they want to make a trade, possibly later into the year, maybe dump off someone's contract or sign someone else to a veteran minimum if things change. If you take a look, the bottom three there are the two-way guys, Ty Washington Jr., Colin Gillespie, and Jalen Bridges, and then the guys signed to Exhibit 10 deals that could also gain that last roster spot: Jaden Shackelford, Tyrese Samuel, and Moses Wood. If we take a look at the roster from top to bottom, obviously you have the big three: Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Yusuf Nurkic, the starting center, Grayson Allen, who I expect to be the sixth man, Royce O'Neal, another valuable bench commodity, Josh Okogie, who re-signed Ryan Dunn, first round draft pick Mason Plumlee, who signed to a veteran minimum, Tyus Jones, who signed to the veteran minimum, who is expected to be the starting point guard with this team, Damian Lee, who did the same move as Josh Okogie, opted out of his player option and then re-signed uh, on a more lucrative contract for him. In that case, Monte Morris on the veteran minimum, Bol also on the minimum, and Oso Ighodaro, the team's second round pick after the Suns made all those moves in the draft. So that's where how the roster shakes out right now. Uh, Obviously, I like as I expected. I feel like that looks a lot better suited for what the Suns are. Without Nassir Little's contracts on the books, he was going to make over $6.5 million this season for a guy who probably wasn't going to factor in to the rotation moving forward. If we take a look at the bare bones numbers, when we talk about the Suns' salary cap situation. Right now, the cap is set at over $140 million in the NBA. The Suns' active roster over $216 million. That's number one in the league, the highest payroll in the league. They also have over 3.5 million in dead money. And then if we take a look in terms of where they are in cap space wise, they're obviously well over the cap. Second to last in terms of their over the cap numbers, right only ahead of the Minnesota Timberwolves in that regard. And then if you take a look at the second apron in terms of where they are and what the future moves could look like, right now the second apron is about $188 million. The Suns over $220 million right now, so they're but just about over $30 million over the second apron. They are there moves that they can make to get underneath that? It would take a lot. It would probably have to take a move of one of the members of the big three if they just wanted to do it in one fell swoop. But they might have to do that over the course of a couple of years if they actually do want to get underneath that second apron to avoid some of those penalties. I think the Suns do have a lot of options when it comes to moving forward, even navigating throughout the second apron. Obviously, there's the veteran minimum aspect that's always going to be there. Those contracts are 1 year deals, they're going to fall off at the end of the season. If the Suns are able to make some moves with some of their higher paid players, let's say maybe at the trade deadline, maybe it's time for Grayson Allen to move on, maybe give Ryan Dunn that particular spot. That's just an option that they could do, whether it be this year or maybe at the end of the season. Then maybe they can move forward, add more draft capital, and then they bring in more draft picks to help continue to fill the roster, even with those veteran minimum players possibly going elsewhere. That's kind of the expectation that I would have for guys like Tyus Jones, Monte Morris, for example. I believe Tyus Jones is probably going to want a bigger payday, a longer term contract. It may come with the Suns, it may not, but in order for them to have that ability to do that, that the Suns as second apron team, they do have the advantage of being able to re-sign their own players. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Tyus Jones would would be able to re-sign with the Suns to a more lucrative deal. I just think that the Suns would probably want to make some other moves around that. Then looking forward after this season into the next season, that's when guys like Yusuf Nurkic comes near the end of his contract. Then you can possibly talk about, what are we going to do with Kevin Durant? What are we going to do with Bradley Beal and their contracts as well, in terms of, the flexibility that the Suns have? I think it's just an important idea. It's important to talk about. It's important for Suns fans to see it. It's for you guys to know exactly where the Suns are sitting. We can keep our focus on, moving into this upcoming season, hopefully winning the championship, because at the end of the day, That's all that really is going to matter at the end of the day. And then all these cap penalties, all this mortgaging of the future, it'll be all worth it if they're able to bring home the chip. That's all the time I got for you guys this time. I appreciate you guys joining us here on Suns Digest. If you want to make sure you're keeping up to date with all the latest Suns news and updates, make sure you hit that subscribe button and show us that support. Hit us up in the comment section as well. Give us a like, give us a follow, and you will be able to help us out as we continue to move forward. We'll continue to update you guys as we head into training camp and into the preseason before the start of the NBA season. Again, my name is CJ Pierre. This has been Suns Digest. I will catch you guys next time, and go Phoenix Suns.